Hey everyone, and welcome. We're diving into some fascinating research about natural killer cells.
NK cells.
Right, NK cells, you sent this over to us, about their potential in cancer therapy. And let me tell you,
Oh, yeah.
this stuff is seriously cool.
It's groundbreaking. It really is. You guys are going to be amazed by this.
I am already. Now, I know most people have heard of T cells when it comes to fighting cancer.
Right.
But NK cells, those are like the unsung heroes.
Always ready to go.
They are always ready.
Yeah.
So what makes them so special?
So you're right. They are always ready. That's the perfect way to put it. They're like the body's first line of defense.
Okay.
They don't need any prior training
Cool.
or special activation like T cells need.
Okay.
They're constantly patrolling, just like ready to identify and eliminate threats. And that includes cancer cells.
That's pretty impressive. That's like the immune system's rapid response team.
Yeah.
So how do they actually take down those cancerous invaders?
They've got a few tricks up their sleeve. One of the most powerful weapons is something called direct cytotoxicity.
Direct cytotoxicity.
Yeah. So picture this.
Okay.
An NK cell encounters a cancer cell.
Mm-hmm.
It latches on and injects these microscopic protein grenades.
What?
Yeah, they're called perforin and granzymes.
Okay.
Directly into that cancer cell.
They inject them.
They do, like tiny assassins.
Wow.
And these proteins are designed to do one thing: trigger cell death.
Wow. Talk about efficient, but that can't be all they do, right? This is the elite defense force.
No, that's right. They're team players, too.
Okay.
NK cells are incredible. Team players, they release these signaling molecules called cytokines,
Okay.
specifically interferon gamma and TNF-alpha.
Wow. So many big words.
I know, right? But think of them as like distress signals or calls to arms for the other immune cells.
Oh, so they're not only taking out enemies themselves, but calling in backup.
Exactly.
Oh, wow.
These cytokines, they boost the overall immune response. So rallying other cells to the fight, amplifying the body's ability to fight off the cancer.
So they're sounding the alarm and making sure the whole immune system is ready to go.
You got it.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
You know, this is kind of reminding me of something I was reading about,
Yeah.
something called antibody-dependent cellular cytotoxicity,
Yes.
ADCC.
EDCC, right? Does that ring a bell?
It does, and that just so happens to be the third major function of NK cells.
Wow.
So our bodies make antibodies,
Right.
those amazing proteins that can recognize and latch onto specific targets,
Like a cancer cell?
like cancer cells. They basically act like wanted posters,
Right.
flagging the dangerous cells for destruction.
Right. I remember reading about that. So how do NK cells use those wanted posters?
Well, NK cells have these receptors that can recognize and bind to those antibodies.
Okay.
Think of it like a lock and key.
Okay.
When an antibody flags a cancer cell, an NK cell can lock onto those antibodies and unleash their killer moves.
So we're giving them a guided missile system to target these cancer cells. Exactly. Incredible precision.
That's so cool. So we're talking about a highly coordinated attack. But how do they know WHO to attack? How do they know what's a healthy cell and what's a harmful cancerous cell?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right.
And it leads us to the fascinating world of activating and inhibitory receptors.
Okay.
You see, NK cells, they have this incredible ability to sense their environment
Okay.
and recognize specific molecules on the surface of other cells.
So these receptors are like sensors to help decide friend or foe.
Yes. Healthy cells display specific molecules, a certain level of something called MHC class 1 molecules, and these act like safe signals.
Okay.
These molecules fit into the inhibitory receptors on NK cells, preventing them from attacking.
So it's like the healthy cells are showing their ID card.
Exactly.
And as long as they see those credentials, they know to stand down.
Right.
What about the cancer cells? Do they try to mimic that?
Some do.
Really?
Yeah, but they're not always successful because cancer cells are often under a lot of stress, growing rapidly, doing all sorts of shady things to evade the immune system. And that stress can actually lead to changes in the molecules they display on their surface.
So they're sending out stress signals that give them away?
They are. And NK cells can pick up on those. And what's even more interesting, many cancer cells, to hide from T cells,
Right.
they try to reduce the number of those safe MHC class 1 molecules on their surface.
Oh, no.
Yeah, risky move.
It is a risky move.
Because it makes them much more vulnerable to NK cells.
So it's like a catch-22. You hide from one type of immune cell.
Right.
You become a target for another.
Exactly. And that's what makes NK cells such a promising avenue for Immunotherapy.
Right.
They have this natural ability to detect and eliminate cells that other parts of the immune system might miss.
This is already blowing my mind, and we're just scratching the surface. Okay, so we've covered how NK cells identify and destroy their targets.
Right.
But how are scientists actually using this knowledge to develop new cancer treatments? Is that something we can get into?
Absolutely. We're just getting started. There are some groundbreaking therapies emerging that harness the power of NK cells. We've only just dipped our toes into the world of NK cells.
Right.
And when it comes to therapies, there are three main approaches that researchers are really excited about.
Okay.
Adoptive NK cell therapy, CAR-NK cells,
Okay.
and then using monoclonal antibodies in a really strategic way.
Okay, those all sound pretty intense.
Yeah.
Let's start with adoptive NK cell therapy.
Sure.
What's the strategy there?
So imagine this. We take your own NK cells,
Okay.
or those from a healthy donor,
Okay.
and we basically give them a little boot camp in the lab.
Boot camp. So like
Oh.
NK cells going through drills, getting jacked.
Exactly. We can dramatically increase their numbers,
Wow.
and in some cases even train them to be even more effective at targeting specific cancer cells.
Wow.
Then, once we have this supercharged army of NK cells,
Okay.
we infuse them back into your bloodstream.
So it's like giving your immune system a serious upgrade,
Yeah,
sending in the reinforcements.
precisely. And because these NK cells are either your own or carefully matched from a donor,
Right.
the risk of rejection is much lower compared to some other types of cell-based therapies.
That's incredible. Okay, so what about this CAR-NK cell approach?
Okay.
What makes that one special?
This one is particularly exciting because it involves genetic engineering.
Oh, wow.
We're talking about modifying NK cells to give them an extra edge against cancer.
Okay.
So we can insert specific genes into NK cells that code for something called chimeric antigen receptors, or CARs for short.
Chimeric engineered, we're like entering science fiction territory.
It might sound like science fiction, but it's rapidly becoming a reality.
Wow.
And it's actually pretty elegant when you get down to it. These CARs are like homing devices.
Okay.
They're designed to recognize and bind to specific proteins found on the surface of cancer cells.
So we're talking about giving these NK cells a built-in GPS that guides them directly to the tumors.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
And the beauty of this approach is we can target proteins that are unique to the cancer cells,
Okay.
minimizing the risk of these engineered NK cells attacking healthy tissues.
That's incredible. And what about the third one, the monoclonal antibodies?
Yeah.
I thought those were already a thing in cancer treatment.
So they are, but scientists have figured out some really clever ways to use them in conjunction with NK cells.
Okay.
Remember how we were talking about NK cells having those receptors that can latch onto antibodies?
Yeah, like the lock and key.
Yes, we can use that to our advantage.
But,
We can create monoclonal antibodies that specifically target proteins found on cancer cells,
right.
and these antibodies act like those wanted posters again.
Okay.
Then, the NK cells with their antibody-detecting receptors can easily find and destroy any cell that's been marked with those antibodies.
This looks like a 1-2 punch.
Yeah.
The antibodies tag the bad guys. The NK cells deliver the final blow.
You got it.
Okay.
And because these monoclonal antibodies are designed to be highly specific, we can minimize the risk of harming healthy cells.
Okay.
Plus, we're essentially boosting the natural abilities of NK cells,
Right.
making them even more effective at what they do best.
This is incredible stuff, but I have to imagine
Yeah.
with any new medical technology, there are challenges.
Sure.
What are some of the hurdles that researchers are facing as they try to bring these NK cell therapies to patients?
You're absolutely right. It's not all smooth sailing.
Right.
One of the biggest challenges is the tumor microenvironment itself.
Okay.
Tumors are sneaky.
Okay.
They've evolved these really clever ways to suppress the immune response in their immediate vicinity.
So it's like they're building a fortress around themselves.
Yeah.
Making it difficult for the NK cells to get in and do their job.
That's a great way to put it.
Wow.
And not only that, but tumors can release all sorts of signaling molecules that dampen the immune response.
Oh, no.
Yeah, essentially putting the NK cells to sleep.
So it's like they're setting up a force field and using mind control
Right.
on these immune cells. Oh, man. What a bummer.
Yeah.
So how do researchers plan to overcome these challenges?
Yeah. They're not throwing their hands up in defeat.
Okay, good.
Scientists are coming up with some ingenious strategies.
Okay.
One promising approach is using combination therapies
Okay.
instead of just relying on NK cells alone.
Right.
The idea is to pair them with other treatments that can break down those defenses.
So sitting in the NK cells with some extra support.
Yes, exactly.
What kind of backup are we talking about?
One option is checkpoint inhibitors.
Checkpoint inhibitors.
Okay, so our immune system has these built-in brakes
Right.
called checkpoints
Mhm.
that prevent it from going into overdrive.
Right. You got to keep those immune cells in check.
Exactly. But cancer cells can exploit those checkpoints.
Oh, no?
Use them to hide from the immune system, like an invisibility cloak.
Wow.
Checkpoint inhibitors, they're drugs that block those checkpoints.
Okay.
Release the brakes and allow the immune system, including NK cells,
Right.
to recognize and attack the cancer more effectively.
Taking the emergency brake off the immune system.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And then there's cytokine therapy.
Okay.
Remember those signaling molecules that
Yeah.
NK cells release?
To call in reinforcements.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We can actually give patients extra doses of these cytokines,
Oh, wow.
like IL-15,
Okay.
to give their immune system a boost.
So it's like providing air support, sending in supplies?
Exactly. And in many cases, combining these approaches,
Okay.
adoptive cell transfer, checkpoint inhibitors, cytokine therapy,
Okay.
can have a synergistic effect.
So a multi-pronged attack?
Yes, exactly, from different angles.
That makes a lot of sense. Like any good military strategy, you want a coordinated plan.
Right.
But you mentioned earlier that tumors can create a very physically challenging environment
Yes,
for these NK cells to
they
navigate.
do.
Are there ways to improve the NK cells themselves to overcome these obstacles?
Yes, researchers are exploring ways to make them even more powerful.
More resilient, using genetic engineering.
Okay.
We can potentially tweak their genes
How?
to make them better at infiltrating tumors.
Giving them special training,
Exactly.
stealth tactics.
We're also working on ways to enhance their lifespan.
Okay.
Right now, one of the limitations is they don't live very long once they're activated.
Right.
But imagine if we could engineer them to survive longer in the body.
That would be a game changer.
Right.
It's incredible to think that we're on the verge of being able to, manipulate cells at such a precise level.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It feels like we're entering a whole new era of medicine.
I agree. It really is incredible.
This has been an amazing deep dive.
It has.
I feel like I've learned so much.
Good.
From how NK cells identify and destroy cancer cells to how scientists are developing strategies to unleash their full potential.
You've been following along closely, asking all the right questions.
Well, you've been an amazing teacher. Well, thank you.
So, for those of you listening, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible journey into the world of NK cells.
Yes, thank you.
It's a field that's evolving so rapidly,
It is
and the future of cancer treatment is looking bright.
very bright.
Until next time, stay curious.